He doesn't know. He didn't care about religion.
Dane, we defer to you as the expert. Tell us what he needs to know about his former religion.
I realized, like, as any major religions in this world, it's all about money and recruitment.
The real power of belief is that it allows you to create and manifest things that are not true yet because you imagine them into existence. Yeah. So there's a power of belief that the literalists and the mechanists will never understand because they're too busy saying what is right now, whereas belief is really about what can be. And I can feel.
And I'm on the path to a really just higher version of myself. I put myself in this box for a long time, and I've really branched out of that box, which is why I'm sitting here right now.
She actually had us read scriptures every night and pray every night, and actually do it a lot more. So I was like, oh, do I really even believe this? And so I started questioning it. I mean, really, I started questioning, I think, God at first. I became agnostic probably 13, 14.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Creation Station Spiritual Expansion Soul Sauce Potluck Podcast. I know, it's a mouthful, right? Say that real fast 32 times. And go.
Only 32?
32, I know.
37 for you, bro.
Okay.
So this is Soul Sauce. We do this generally about every 2 weeks. And let's all have a hippie round of applause for all of you just for showing up here today. Showing up for community, showing up for each other, showing up for yourself. Oh, shit, I forgot the donation sheet. Okay.
We do that at the end. You can find that.
Yeah, I will. Okay, so this event is an off-site Big Love Yoga Barn event. So some of your generous donations tonight will also go towards the Big Love Yoga Barn and our relocation fund, as we are going to be shutting down the current location and reopening a new location over on the plaza. Always, thank you for your support and help in that regard, as well as just showing up and doing this. Let's go ahead and start it off with a little introduction. Yeah, it's not time to lay down yet, bro. Look at, I wasn't laying down. That's not me.
Make yourself at home.
Let's start off with our names and one thing you consider to be the most interesting thing about yourself. Let's see what happens with that. Hold it. I just heard some people out there. Did y'all?
I think it's people out in the neighbor's yard.
Okay.
I think it's Rogelio.
Okay. So how about we start right over here, if we will. Your name, please, ma'am. And one thing you consider to be the most interesting thing about yourself.
My name is Heather, and I am struggling to find the most interesting. I was just talking about mystery snail breeding today, so I've done that before. That was random.
Okay.
Yes.
There.
I did that
That's at the top of your interesting list.
That was the most. I don't know. But it works. It works for now.
Snail pimping.
Yes.
That's right.
Snail pimping in my life. Yes.
All right. And how about we go in front here? What's up, buddy?
Miles. I would say the most interesting thing. That's tough, but maybe. The last year I've been on this spiritual healing journey, and it's been an interesting, wild ride for me. And it's been so good. So good.
Beautiful. Do you have one thing or sentence that you can say that was an epiphany?
Ooh, I'd have to go deep there. Let's wait for that later.
All right, sounds good, man. All right, we'll expect it from you later then. All right, how about you, buddy?
Report on our desk.
My name is Josh, and motorcycles are probably the most interesting thing about me.
Gotcha, man.
Collecting, restoring, writing. Oh, yeah.
Vroom, vroom.
Nice.
Can you do wheelies, dude?
I'm learning. Yeah.
All right. I want to see a video soon then, okay?
Sure.
All right, the normal guy back there.
Yes. What could possibly be interesting about me? I don't know. Well, I'm Dane. I don't know. I have so many interests, so many bizarre interests. I guess I suppose that's interesting. Just the fact that I always try to find things about life that are strange and unusual and interesting, extreme, things that are out of the ordinary. I find that to be where I am the most at home. So that could be extrapolated all kinds of ways. Just kind of an epicenter for things that are unusual.
Love it, brother.
Freaks and geeks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alright, so
Yeah.
Sharam. And I couldn't. So the first thought that came to mind is what I'm going to share. Is that I have a confusing state of mind when it comes to where I belong, like where do I belong to? Because a little quick history is like I was born in Iran, but I was raised in India. So I always had my Iranian passport in India. So I mean, I couldn't say I was an Indian. And then having moved here to the US, I switched over to like a US passport a long time ago. But I still feel like I'm Indian, but I'm not really Indian. I'm actually technically Iranian. So it's like really I do not know.
Yeah.
Word.
Wow, dude. Okay.
What's your ancestry?
Iranian.
Okay.
You're nationally conflicted.
Yes. Yeah.
You're internationally conflicted.
I'm like the U.S. state version of that because I've moved around so many places. So I understand that in a different way.
Wow. Okay. We'll get deeper into that. That might have some roads to head on down later on. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that even leads into beliefs. A belief or even a disbelief would be the opposite of that. We can get deeper into that later on. Who are you, bro? And what's your story?
My name is Satek Ananda, and the most interesting thing about me is probably that I'm a mixed breed circus bastard. I grew up in the Ringling Brothers Circus, and my mother ran away to join the circus when she was 26.
That old story.
That old story. And her Southern Baptist family disowned her for having a black circus man's baby. There's a little bit of baggage in the family.
There's a book in there, and Oprah's got to play one of those characters, I bet.
Totally.
Oprah's got to promote that book.
Totally.
My name is Jason Kierce, everybody. Thank you all for being here. An interesting thing about me is I really like to cook. I like to cook all kinds of different dishes, things that I've never had before. Lots of different spices. I like to kick the heat up on it. And I'm pretty much open for most anything in the cooking realm. I'll say many other realms also. Anyways, this is spiritual expansion. Point to that sign right up there. Snap at it. I love how these social experiments, they always seem to get somebody. And let's figure out what this event is about tonight. Soul Sauce, episode 9. Take it away, bro.
Welcome to Soul Sauce. Soul Sauce. This is a spiritual support group that we started during the pandemic. And everybody was very anxious and very lonely. And the idea was to cultivate the same kind of intimate and authentic connections that we experienced in medicine ceremonies and meditation ceremonies and sweatshop, weekend retreats, and to how can we simulate that without people needing to go somewhere else or spend a bunch of money. And that's how we came to the format of this experience. And the format is very simple. When we started it, we all sat in a circle and we all wore a blindfold. And the idea is to just share your truth, whatever it is, wherever you're at, however you're feeling right now, just share it openly and trust that it will be received. And we love to receive truth and authenticity. This is a safe space for you to share truths that you might not even know until you let yourself start talking about them. And that's part of the invitation for this, what we call the share chair. Okay, we used to do it in a circle. Now we do it like this. We revolve around the share chair because it makes it easier to record so that we can share these stories with others. But please don't let the idea of the recording or the podcast stop you from being authentic. If you share anything you don't want, just tell us. We'll cut it out. We got a lot of this stuff, so it's not hard for us to cut it out. Please don't let that stop you from sharing. And we don't expect the viewers to wear blindfolds in this format, but I invite you to close your eyes while you listen as much as you can, because what we have discovered is that we listen much deeper when our eyes are closed. If you come to the share chair, an expected part of it is your willingness to put on a blindfold, because you will share much deeper. You will share much more honestly, much more openly, without the distraction of vision. So that is the format, and welcome to you all. This is not Fight Club, so you do not have to share, especially if this is your first time, but I invite you to step outside of your comfort zone into discomfort. I invite you because this is the safest space you're ever going to find. Everyone here is ready and willing to listen to whatever your truth is. And we see over and over again that when people let themselves express, they discover truths they didn't know that they had. So that's the invitation. Every time we do this, we always have a theme. And the theme is just to give us like a place to start the conversation. If you have something you need to share that isn't directly connected to the theme, you're still welcome to bring it, okay? We're here to hear anything that you need to share. But we do always have the theme, and tonight the theme is belief. The theme is belief, and there's a lot of ways that we could approach this topic of belief. But the way I would most like to approach it is from the idea that it is our subconscious beliefs that rule, that control our lives. It is our subconscious beliefs that determine the archetypes that we express and the patterns that we move in. And so you're welcome to talk about beliefs in any level that you need to, any part of your life. But what I'm really interested in is what beliefs that you know you used to have that limited you in a specific way that you now don't believe anymore. And you can share with us how that belief has changed. I'm very interested in that. But if you come up, don't be afraid. We'll ask you questions. You don't have to have a whole answer in your head. That's not the way this works. We'll chat with you. We'll ask you questions. We'll guide you through the process. And just remember, belief it's a loose background of what we want to talk about. And so, I can begin. And there are a lot of beliefs that I carried young in life, as I think all of us do. There are a lot of beliefs, a lot of destructive beliefs that I learned young in childhood. Toxic masculinity beliefs, insecurity beliefs, religious beliefs, economic beliefs. Like, for example, my mom and my dad never even had a bank account. Like, they would just go to the bank and cash their check, and I never saw anybody else's parents cash their checks. I didn't understand why my parents were different. There's a certain belief structure that I got from their approach to money, their approach to abundance. There's certain belief structures that I got from my dad being an addictive gambler. there's certain belief structures I got from my mother being born in a Southern Baptist, family, but being a completely pagan, New Age, Wiccan priestess or whatever she would call herself. There's a lot of beliefs that that come with childhood, with adolescence, and one of the ones that that haunted me the most was my belief in whatever sexuality is, my belief about what women want from a man, my belief about what I'm able to deliver. And those beliefs followed me for many, many years. And they poisoned many, many relationships. And only because of my willingness to look at my own shadow, to face the mirror, to face my own egoic fears, my own expectations, my own limitations, was I able to find new beliefs that feel better inside, new beliefs that create better relationships, new beliefs that create better sexual experiences. And the key to belief, the reason I wanted to talk about it as a subject is because our beliefs determine our reality. Our beliefs are like filters that determine what we see. And I'm really interested in hearing about what beliefs you learned from your parents, from your friends, from your schools, from your churches, from your governments. And I would love if we could all note the shifts that happen as we begin to change our beliefs. How does that affect our lives when we let go of disempowering and limiting beliefs? I am complete. Any thoughts, any questions?
Let's get one former belief that you had about sexuality and how that belief has been renewed or replaced by a new version.
Nice, thank you. This is the importance of the questions, y'all, and we'll ask questions, and you guys will have opportunities to ask questions as well. So one of the really the simplest, clearest ones was this deep and personal fear that I had with the idea of impotence. And the reason was because of my mother, and she was married twice before she met my dad, and she would talk about her second husband as the impotent preacher. And I heard that word a lot as a young child, and I didn't even know what an erection was. And I'm trying to process what impotence means. And once I finally learned what an erection was, it terrified me. I didn't know how that's supposed to even happen. How do you do that? And then it terrified me that it could not work, right? So, I'm a little kid and I haven't even had the experience, and I'm already creating anxiety and worry for myself thanks to my mother. And what I know about impotence is that women really don't like it. I'm just it's obvious that women really don't like it. So I'm really fucking worried. What happens if whatever?
Neither do gay men.
Right, right. Thank you. And so what I ended up with was a psychosomatic experience where I just created all this anxiety and had trouble having an erection in the circumstances, and felt weird and broken because of it, and wasn't conscious enough of my beliefs or the programming to realize thanks, Ma. I shouldn't have been thinking about this when I was fucking 6 years old. But thanks to a lot of meditation, a lot of spiritual work, and some really, really beautiful partners, I was able to let go of the the egoic fears connected to this completely fabricated idea that was planted in my head. I was able to let go of it and let go of all fear associated with it, and almost all experiences of it, disappeared from my life. And when I do have an issue with it, it's not a fearful thing or like feel bad about myself thing. It's a very clear statement of energetic misalignment, and something needs to be addressed or talked about. And when that thing is addressed, then it goes away. So it's no longer a problem. It's a natural response that I know has a message behind it, and I don't create pain or fear for myself about it anymore. Did that answer your question?
Extensively.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Who has a question or a comment for Satek?
When it comes to sexuality, was it a predominantly physiological thing like that, or was it a, oh, I'm gonna be too rough, I'm gonna be too, whatever, like some kind of behavioral thing?
Good question.
Because that's just one component of it.
That's a good question, because the psychology of sexuality is way more multidimensional than anybody ever really addresses. And so for me, it was a lot of things. It was I had friends that were, rampantly fingering any girl that would stand still, and then telling everybody about it and talking about it and, whatever. And I really didn't like the energy of that. And I really didn't want to be a dude that would, use a girl. And so I had this hypersensitivity. And so I was really respectful, but I was too respectful. And so several girlfriends broke up with me, because I didn't kiss them soon enough, but I was waiting for a sign because I didn't want to be fucking gropey or whatever. And so a lot, it's I was losing on the other side of watching my other buddies be lascivious and treat women like objects. And I didn't like that, but what I didn't notice is the women were fucking lined up, and it didn't matter what they said about anybody. Women were lined up, and I was really sensitive, and I didn't want to treat women like that, and nobody was lined up. Nobody was lined up for my approach, and so slowly I had to kind of figure out the dynamics, the layers of expectation of what they think and what they're wanting, and you trying to figure out what you want, and trying to figure out what's appropriate and how fast it should move, and just endless fucking questions that don't have any clear answers, and luckily I found a few fast girls that weren't waiting for me, and they showed me how it worked. And I was thankful. I was thankful for it. Thank you. Finally. This can be simple. Nice. Awesome. Anybody else? Okay.
I got one.
Oh.
What's a belief, an example you have of a toxic masculinity you grew up believing, and what's the counterpart to it now?
Nice. There's a lot of toxic masculinity in this culture. The most obvious one, when I look at my childhood, is this very masculine, very brotherly, insulting, ribbing, embarrassing, making fun of, demeaning, there's this endlessly destructive joy in boyness that it really makes sense, and it really works inside of a Huck Finn novel or something, but the older you get, the more childish it feels, and it's like punching a girl that you like because you don't know how to talk to her. It's that level of interaction. And I was a competitive athlete, and so there was a lot of the ribbing and the making fun of and the humor at the expense of each other, and I don't find joy and amusement in hurting or insulting or demeaning people I care about anymore. Thank you for the question.
Nice.
Awesome. All right. Do we have any volunteers, or are we going to go around the circle? Who's next? Who would like to go? Let's go around the circle then. Sharam. He knew.
He was
ready.
He was about to stand up anyway.
He was ready.
He was gonna stand up, and he was just waiting to be called out anyways.
We're gonna go ahead.
Hey, carry on, sir.
Con Carolina, that's why I'm all
Okay.
All right. Welcome. Tell us your name, and tell us
Your front point here.
and tell us anything that feels important to share about your beliefs as you were growing up, your young beliefs.
Sure. So my name is Sharam, and growing up, I grew up in India, and I was just thinking about it as I was focusing down there, trying to figure out what my belief system was as a young boy. And the family that I grew up in, the men would always provide for the woman. The women would be homemakers and raise kids. And my uncle and granddad would go out and work and come back home, and they would be the financial folks who would provide the money.
Mm-hmm.
So what has changed is after all these years of living out here, I realized that is an imbalance between men should only provide while the women stay at home. I believe there is an equality out there, and I can always say, like, the work of a mother is far more important and time consuming and tiring compared to the men's job and going out and working for 8 hours and coming back home and earning money. But because when I got married, my belief system was still of my younger me. So I didn't expect my wife to work, but I provided as everything I could. And I think that came back to bite me later. So,
Reach it.
yep. So that's a change in my belief system, that we can be equal partners in every aspect of living.
How did it come back to bite you?
Just the way the law has been written out here, with equal share among everything. So even though I was like providing like 90% or 99% of the family income, that to the law is like, okay, you all are married, so it is everyone's right to own that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pay extra. So all those years of being married didn't really matter to the law, if that makes sense.
That's the alimony.
Yeah, alimony split, all that stuff, like, yeah.
So they tested your belief.
Yes. Life tested my belief system and it changed it.
Nice. I love that. Can you give us an example of one or more beliefs that they tried to program you with, but you didn't accept? Your parents, your family, your society. Can you give us an example of beliefs that you did not accept?
I would say religion, for one, because we were born, I was born Baha'i, and...
But excuse me, you said Baha'i?
Mm-hmm.
That's a religion?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
It's a Judeo-Christian offshoot that incorporates different aspects of Islam and the other Abrahamic faiths, if I recall.
I knew you would know about that.
Was I accurate, more or less?
He doesn't know. He didn't care about religion.
Dane, we defer to you as the expert, all right? Tell us what he needs to know about his former religion.
No. So how did you not, like, why or how did you not receive that programming?
So initially it was all good. It was fun to go to a place, but I found it more fun going and hanging around with my friends rather than listening to the readings and prayers and all that good stuff.
It was boring.
Yeah, I would say so. But the feast was good because there was always feast to eat after that, and I always had some friends to go hang around with. And then as I grew into a teenager, we would go down and hang around downstairs instead of even being upstairs. And then it's just kind of slowly faded away. And then I realized, like, as any religion in this world, or like major religions in this world, it's all about money and recruitment. And it had nothing else to do. We gotta recruit, or we gotta get money. And I get the concept of both of them, but then there's one principle in the Baha'i faith that talks about in independent investigation of the truth. So I look at it and say, like, I am doing my own investigation of what the truth is. And that's where I find myself in this kind of circle.
Awesome. And what belief did you come to on your own since you didn't accept theirs?
This religion versus spirituality concepts of religion is more structured, spirituality have a straight connection to God. You don't really need to have a structure to connect to your higher self, to the universe, which is within yourself anyway to begin with. So I mean, there are common good rules in all religions. I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, it's definitely good. For the unstructured, need help, need guidance, need some rules and regulations to follow kind of people. But for the others, it's a free flow, free spirited world that we can enjoy the benefits of this beautiful life that we have.
I like your belief better.
I got one for sure. Speaking of your religious deviation, what's the first memory that you can think of that the general religion believed that you were like, wait a second, that don't make sense to me?
Like Shiva's 8 hands?
No, I was never a Hindu.
Gotcha.
No. But I did go to temples quite often just because my friends were going, and it would mean that my friends could drink till 2 in the morning and then go to the temple by 5. So we could do that. That was fun. I think the first thing that came to mind was there are parts of the religion which are good, but there are a few that I still don't get it. The one part is like in the Baha'i faith, there is no clergy, which is awesome because you don't give the rights to one person to dictate how everyone else should follow. So it's basically a council of 9 people who are elected every 5 years who get onto the council, and they are the supreme body in the Baha'i faith. It's called the Universal House of Justice. And the part that I don't quite fully understand and still question is is that women cannot be on that council or that board. Even though the Baha'i faith has the principle of man and woman are even, they are the feathers of the same bird because they both need to be strong for the bird to fly. So those concepts of equality between man and women are there, but the part that I still haven't figured out is why can't a woman be on that same council as the rest of the men? And it's supposed to be okay, we will eventually get to know about it at a point of time in the future. So I don't get it. so I'm okay right now.
It could just be, misogyny. It could just be patriarchy.
That's the patriarchy. That's
Mhm.
the hey.
Yeah,
Somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to be subservient.
This is a zero-sum game.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure there, so no judgment, no nothing.
I got another one. Do you have one?
I was about to ask the
Go
crowd.
ahead. Oh, let me go then. So what I want to know is, are there any beliefs you know that you're carrying now that are limiting your life experience?
Good one.
Thank you.
I can't
Say what?
think of any.
Awesome.
What would your wife tell you? I mean, the ex.
Which one?
Oh my
Go
goodness,
pick it, take your pick.
I don't know, dude.
That's a toughie. I love it.
Mm.
If you don't know, you're either doing really well or you're deep in repression. One or the other. And I know I've known you for a while, and so I feel like it's probably the former, probably the first one.
Let me ask the flip side of that, and that is, what is a current belief that you have that is the most beneficial to all of your development right now?
Nice.
Beneficial to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not perfect.
Mm.
Perfection is an illusion,
Mm-hmm.
which makes living life much more easier because I don't have to worry about getting everything correct as long as I give it my whatever. I don't need to worry about whether it's right or wrong. It's whatever. Let's move on. I'm
Love
fine.
You're relieving yourself of a pre-imposed anxiety.
Love that. Love that. All right. Any questions, you guys, gals?
Or comments.
Well, you had mentioned before your kind of national sense of confusion. I am curious if the Baha'i faith contributed to that somewhat, because it is a native, a religion that is native to Iran, but it does acclimate aspects of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam together, basically saying that one continues the other. And so I kind of wonder if that consciously or unconsciously contributed to that, on top of just physically moving places as well, because it is kind of baked in.
Right.
Do you think that's true, or had you thought about that?
I haven't thought about it, but like my friends would always, I don't my friends would always make fun of me in India because I was never an Indian. I could not vote. I think I did manage to vote in India a couple of times, because I was so out there. I had all this documentation except for my nationality was not Indian. So I never felt Indian. I always felt Iranian. And now when I'm out here in the US, I feel more Indian than American, because I'm not. I mean, I wasn't raised in this culture, so a lot of things are relatively new to me. Relatively is like a few decades, but it's still relative. And so I never felt home anywhere. I think just recently I decided to call Charlotte home just because of my kids.
Nice.
Because
Sure.
Well, one of the advantages of the United States versus other places, and we're not perfect at this by any means, but you are able to be from many places and have a variety of cultural aspects in your background, and you can make a life of sorts here. We're not perfect in our implementation, but we're not like, because India, meanwhile, very long, rich history that is very, heavily entrenched with race, with religion, that kind of stuff. Hard to break into that.
Right.
Here you can more or less make
melting
the
pot.
life that you want. Yeah.
Exactly.
Not that it's an easy road to do it, but you can do it a lot easier than in other places. So if that brings any comfort at all.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
It brings beautiful comfort to his loneliness.
No, I'm pretty happy.
I know, bro. I know. Like you're happy doing your thing, and it's gorgeous.
Sharam,
Yes.
being nationally conflicted as you were growing up,
Mm-hmm.
what did that do for your belief structure of or your emotional well-being or identity that was the result of the confliction of nationality?
Oh yeah, Lost. That did help in or aid in my conflict with why is my dad not living with me? Because he was based in Europe, and I was always not sure. Like it did add into the fuel with my confusion as to who I am and what am I doing there and what should I be doing and when am I going to die? Kind of questions that would come through my mind.
How old were you when you first asked yourself, when am I going to die?
About 10 after my sister passed away.
Right.
And then I figured out I did have an elder brother, so he passed away, my sister passed away, my mom passed away. And I said, my dad is not living with me, and I guess I should be dying soon. When is that coming soon? So like,
Oh shit, dude.
Goodness.
Yeah, that got heavier.
yeah, it was fun.
It was fun. It was fun.
I love how you're able to very charismatically deal with your past traumas. That's great.
Let the Exxon oil roll off of your back.
You're coming up strong, brother.
Anybody else got a question or thought for him? Good.
Alrighty.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you.
brother.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good
Bravo,
job.
Sharam.
Yes.
Who? How about Josh? Would you be interested?
I'm gonna pass tonight. Take a rain check.
Perfectly fine.
I want to see Dan go. I'm so intrigued.
All right.
He wore the boots.
My
It's the boots for me.
Mhm.
I will give my public what it wants.
I love his modesty too. You should wear a yellow one, dude.
I got to color coordinate.
All right, your name and what else is it?
Anything you can share with us about your beliefs from young life, from childhood?
It's gonna be an interesting one. Well, I'm Dane. I'm decked out the way I am because I just came back from Carolinas, so that's why. Yeah, it's tough for me to get into this topic because so kind of going off of what was previously said. So I had life full of very entrenched religious beliefs. I was raised Catholic, and then we left the church after the Boston Globe expose in 2001, and then my parents joined a evangelical megachurch that I never really took to, and so I saw a lot of the things that I believed in kind of, well, on top of having moved cross country fairly close to when that occurred, while puberty was onsetting, for me it's like I was thrown a lot of change all at the same time, pretty life-changing things that would affect anybody, and so it really, and I saw people's beliefs kind of take hold and change them fundamentally, and so it made me it made the idea of things that don't really change and the things that are not really dependent upon belief, that made those things very attractive to me. And so therefore I was skeptical for quite a long time because it was, I liked the idea of reality that is independent of perception, independent of how you feel about it, something that you can repeat and prove and that kind of stuff. I still derive a lot of comfort from that, because it negates the because people do all kinds of extreme things when they believe things, and so I was fearful of that at that time. And
You're
just,
talking about the difference between belief and actual reality.
well, I like the idea of there being a reality that is independent of how you perceive it.
He's got a scientific perspective.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I like the fact that there are things that you can really stake yourself on that are provable and repeatable, and things that exist regardless of your perceptions. And I derived a lot of comfort from that because I had seen a lot of destruction in the name of belief, and that in belief in whatever. I'm not even just talking about religious beliefs. I'm talking like, because politics is a belief, and different, like I'm wearing Star Wars stuff right now, and it's like there are Star Wars fans that are rabid and will be extremely insulting, and like we saw in 2017 with like, that's how toxic fandom really became a term. I think it probably predated that, but it got writ large around that time. People will act out of whatever belief that they have, and it will be, it can propel people to doing extraordinary things, and it can propel people to doing extraordinarily bad things. And so I took a lot of comfort in just not really having that be a part of my life. I was so concerned with that which was true, and that which did not depend upon people's perceptions. And it's still something I struggle with a lot, and that's why it's a difficult subject for me, because I do derive a lot of comfort from that, even if the reality is a horrible one. Because at the very least I would always say, blah blah blah, but it's true, or the truth matters more than my comfort, and that kind of stuff. And I still want to believe that. The thing is that I do know that people are able to do amazing things when they believe things that are positive very strongly. And also, like, when you live so much in the realm of that which can be proven, you negate things that are dependent on perception, or you negate things that you're only living in the world of the proven and the precedent that's been set, as opposed to the possible. And so that is, I guess you could argue, a limiting belief in and of itself. And so now I'm kind of at that stage of like, okay, what do people believe? Why do they believe it? How can they stake their lives on this belief? And what are the fruits? What are the fruits of those beliefs? Are they good fruits, or are they bad fruits? And I think it varies a lot with each person. It's why you can look at someone who was raised a certain way religiously, and they will have great experiences with it because it matches their mental orientation. And then other people who don't, because it does not match their mental orientation. Like, if you are a free spirit kind of person, that's never gonna work with you so much, because it does require a certain bit of regimentation. But for people who are oriented that way, they can often have a great experience. And I'm interested now in the ways in which belief does make people do extraordinary things instead of extraordinarily bad things, which is what I had always thought in my teenage years. Yeah, in my teenage years, that's kind of what I thought belief constituted, was belief without evidence is kind of what I equated it to. But I understand now that it's not as black and white as that.
There was a negative connotation to belief before that kind of turned you off for it, and you're beginning to see the positive aspects of belief. Is that what I'm hearing?
That, and just what does it mean for me? Because then, meanwhile, in childhood, I was very strict with myself when it came to Catholicism. I read my catechism very faithfully, and I took it very, very seriously. And so I've been on kind of both ends of the spectrum and on that level. And so now I want to know what it is that makes people believe the things that they believe, and how they can justifiably stake their lives on whatever it is that they do believe. Because everybody, fundamentally, a belief is it's a leap of faith, quite frankly. You're jumping.
A belief is unprovable.
Exactly. You are literally or not literally. Your metaphor and maybe
No, you are. You're literally putting
you're
your faith into something that's unprovable.
Well, that and you are the metaphorical part, I guess, is the jumping. You're jumping off of a cliff and expecting that the angels will catch you, or that there's
something's gonna catch you.
yeah, exactly. And that is scary for me because I haven't had a lot of evidence for that in my life when I look at it in a certain way, but then I look at it through another lens, and I can it's hindsight is 2020. I can look back on it and I'm like, well, that thing that I really wanted didn't come to me immediately, but it came later. And so that's where you get phrases like in God's timing or the universe's timing or whatever. You get phrases like that. And so it's a lot of active work I have to put in to try to get myself to see that, because my teenage self onward was not inclined to think that way because I thought it was useless, and talk about, by their fruits shall ye know them. The people that think the way that I did, very well, not to put too fine a point on it, who think that way very religiously, they tended to become very nihilistic and very self-destructive, and it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy like we talked about, because sometimes a negative belief can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I didn't want to be a part of that. I just didn't see much of an alternative. And so now I'm just really trying to think about, like, what is it that it means for me. And I think that now, I don't consider myself an atheist or agnostic anymore. But I'm just trying to figure out what that really means for me, because I'm a very just generally rational person, and I know that it's not all that conducive with belief.
So my first question, and you can go, Jay, is is there any way you can express to us what your current beliefs about yourself and the universe are?
Let's see. It's a tough question to answer, because my natural inclination wants to say, well, the universe doesn't really care whether you live or die, and therefore you have to make of this life what you can, and that kind of stuff. But that's also not conducive to a good way of living. I don't really want people to believe that, because I think that we've seen the destruction that gets wreaked with that belief system. And it is a belief system. Even if it's a lack of belief, it is a belief system. So I don't really want people to believe that anymore. And I don't necessarily think that pure rationalism is the answer, as in a way that I used to think. I think that you have to. I do really like the Plato's theory of ideal forms. I really like, as far as there being a concept of absolute good, absolute beauty, absolute whatever. There are pure forms of these very vague concepts in order for the shadows of them to exist in the physical realm that we live in. I find that very attractive, just because it does imply that there is some kind of higher goal to stretch for, and that we can aspire to those things if we choose to, and if we work towards them. We hold that's not even asking too much, and I think it's a fairly it's a good way to visualize higher order instincts and higher order behaviors that we could all emulate. Because I think when we live down on the earth's surface too much, when we live too much in physical reality, too much in the present, then the temptation towards hedonism is very high, and I don't think that's conducive. I don't think that's conducive for a good society or a good individual person.
They always seem to melt down in that state.
They do. Well, it's like you either aim upward at something greater than yourself, call it God, call it ideal forms, whatever, you either aim up at that or you are okay with languishing kind of at the bottom. And I think I languished at the bottom for too long, and so I'm trying to orient myself upward towards better things.
Oh, thank you, brother. Ascension, love that.
Yeah, ascension is the right word. And also the fact that you as an individual person can be a reflection of those higher order instincts, you know.
Yes, and yes, it's a vibration.
Absolutely. And
so Dane,
yes.
Can you be specific as to a recent belief that you had that has been replaced with a more positive belief of the way that you live your life?
Well, I actually have a perfect answer for that. I was kind of wondering what I would say to that, but I got a perfect one, which was that for a while I didn't think that there were such a thing as truly altruistic actions. Because I kind of, and I didn't really want to paint it as like a bad thing. I wanted to say basically that if you do something nice for someone else, then you kind of feel good in yourself, and that's a little benefit you get. Which I do think is true. I mean, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It feels good to do good things, and therefore you should do those things, you know. I think that's a perfectly fine thing, but you could interpret that very cynically, and I think there was a time when I did, when it came to, because when you say that there are no truly altruistic actions, then that, again, that does open the floodgates for every kind of, you know, bad behavior you could imagine. And I have also met people subsequently who really do put their lives at risk, who really do put their livelihoods at risk, their own happiness, in the name of something that they believe to be greater than themselves, whether it's taking care of children, animals. You know, you look at even like during the pandemic, the quote unquote essential workers or whatever, which I thought was such a that I didn't like that term because it implied a, you know, hierarchy of significance or whatever. But the what they meant by that is people that were literally on the front lines, putting themselves in danger of getting sick and possibly dying, in the name of keeping the world afloat, basically. And that's its own kind of true altruism. And so that, I'm getting very philosophical, but it is a very important belief that needed to be challenged, because if you only believe in just reciprocal actions, then you get a very cynical worldview that I've been trying to shake. And so when you see evidence of people behaving in ways that can truly be called altruistic, then it does tell you inside, oh, there are things that are good in this world that are worth fighting for. You know, there are good people left in this world. It's not all, you know, expediency, and it's not all the cultural currency of the now, and the you know, superficiality, and, you know, how many TikTok followers do I have, how many Instagram followers do I have? I don't have any. I must be worthless. You know, that's kind of the way we're trained to think now. And so when you see people acting in ways that are not like that, then that is worth fighting for, I think. That is where you get some of the, because when it comes to religion, you get the negative aspects of it, like hierarchy and being controlling and that kind of stuff. One of the patriarchal, one of the things that is useful, I think, is a system of ideas that can, when done right, encourage the best optimal forms of behavior and conduct within individuals and with each other. You know, that's when they're functioning well. And I feel like that's something I'm very interested in now too, is just examining, you know, what is considered acceptable, what's not, how well does that function, how well does it not, in what culture, at what time, that kind of thing.
Awesome. And is there a belief that you know that you have right now that is holding you back or holding you in the same place?
I probably have quite a lot. I mean, I think that, well, again, it's tough to answer, because I think a lot of the things that you could say hold me back, I try to say are informed by the world as it is. In other words, you look at every statistic and there's a loneliness epidemic that's all over the place, people are finding it harder to make real lifelong friends and social connections, a social safety net, that kind of stuff. Those are all very provable, and so I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to think about, and it's something that I feel myself. I mean, I think I've got plenty of friends and stuff like that, but it's like there is kind of this. I still feel a pervasive sense of loneliness much of the time in spite of that, and I think I'm far better off than a lot of people these days in that regard, but
So are you saying that just thinking about loneliness makes you more lonely?
I'm saying that I'm the kind of person that I can feel alone when I'm in a crowd of people, and and yet I feel like I am better off than most in that department, because now the point is the trend line is not going in a good direction on that particular issue, but it's one of those. It does to answer Satek's point. It does have to start with the individual person, and so therefore I have to overcome that, have to be able to form real connections with people that are sustaining. And you could say that a limiting belief might be, well, I can't connect with other people because I'm too strange or unusual, or my upbringing was too different from that of other people, or I have too many physical limitations that prevent me from doing things that other people can do. And again, there's facts to back that up, but at the same time there is a mindset component that goes along with that. And so that's what I constantly struggle with, is the facts on the ground versus the mindset that goes with it. If you can, it's almost as if you have to be at least a little bit delusional to be successful, and it is kind of true, because it is a leap of faith past whatever the objective facts are. And then in doing that, you can somehow, if you do it right, somehow you can rise up. And that's something I'm juggling back and forth in my head.
That, what he just mentioned, is amazing, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about belief as a topic, because most people assume that belief is a measure of objective truth. But the real power of belief is not measuring objective truth. The real power of belief is that it allows you to create and manifest things that are not true yet, because you imagine them into existence. So there's a power of belief that the literalists and the mechanists will never understand, because they're too busy saying what is right now, whereas belief is really about what can be. And I can feel you accessing that inside of yourself. That's super exciting.
Certainly trying to. I mean, I'm someone that I still am this way by nature, of analyzing the past and the current trends to better predict the future. That is still, again, going about it kind of in a scientific fashion, of going based on historical precedent and that kind of stuff. Very important. Everyone needs to do that in some excuse me. Everyone needs to do that in some way. The challenge is that when it comes to belief, that is, Leonardo da Vinci making the flying machine before the Wright brothers actually succeed. That is Michelangelo looking at the block of marble and seeing the horse, and
it's manifestation.
Yeah.
And it's that all reality is first of all created in thought.
Exactly. And
passionate thought.
And how to have the right thoughts instead of the self-destructive thoughts. That's because those can be a belief in and of themselves.
Well, they are, and it's exampled by war.
Exactly.
And the nocebo effect, which will kill you. If you believe you're going to die, your body will die.
Say that again, the what?
The nocebo effect. It's
okay.
The negative version of the placebo.
I see.
And if you believe you're going to die, your body will shut down.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of where you get into those, like, people that literally lose the will to live, and they do die of that. They call it dying of a broken heart, but that happened to Johnny Cash. He lost the will to live, and he just died right after June Carter Cash died. Says he had nothing else to live for in his eyes.
And so belief is the energy it takes to overcome the current existing form or reality.
The perception of
and
the current form.
And that even more than the perception, even the physical limitation. Yes, that is the perception. The physical limitations of the perception is overcome by the belief. And there are people put on this planet with massive physical debilitating features that are here to create belief for themselves and for other people. Dane, can you create this kind of belief of yourself in whatever perceived physical limitations that you have right now?
Well, I think I actually am doing just that, because so like a good example is for most of my life I would wear what my mom, thought looked good on me, or what she thought was acceptable, whatever, and I didn't really have much of a way to think about what is my own style, what is that, I didn't have much of a sense of self. I was just doing what I was told, basically. And then when the pandemic hit and all the other bad things that I've talked about before, when they happened, I really started to think about, like, what would that Superman kind of version of myself be like? And so I really thought that through in every area of, like, sense of style. Like, you might think this is kind of crazy, and yes, it is, but it's like, at the same time, this is, like, what the kind of fully actualized version of myself would be like. Someone that has like a uniform that represents him, and has a certain sense of self that is not like that of other people, and yet is informed by some aspects of the past. So that's in the wardrobe realm. Then the physical realm is get into the best shape of my life, which I put in a lot of work.
This is your Burning Man.
My Burning Man?
This is your Burning Man.
He's describing like his higher self. He's describing like the best version of himself. It's
exactly.
awesome.
Well, and putting in the work to make it real. In physical realm, I'm doing that. I did want a better job, which I now have. For a long time, I struggled with finding one that would really, they would get me and utilize me well, and they do. But I'm trying to do that in every area of my life. I want to do that in the creativity realm, and again in the friends and relationships realm, which I do think I am doing slowly but surely. But just really think, that's actually a good exercise for everybody here and everybody watching, that is just think about what would that fully actualize, your final digi-evolution, what would that final form of yourself, what would that person do? What would they do if they were unafraid, if they had everything that they needed? What would that Superman version of yourself be like? And then make that person become real. I think that's a good thing to do. That's what I've been working at doing, and that's in keeping with that theme of ascension there.
Love that. You guys, thoughts, questions? Got anything else?
Well, complete.
I'm good. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
That was amazing. I love that you wore the hat.
Yeah.
and the chair.
I had to represent,
All right, Heather.
Oh, I gotta pee.
Go pee and then come back and sit in the chair. Either of you guys open?
I'm debating.
Come on, bro. Come on. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Let me ask you something.
And we'll
Miles,
delete it if you don't like the. Don't worry about the recording.
Miles, can I ask you something? Do you believe that overcoming your hesitation of coming to the share chair would be advantageous for you?
Do I believe overcoming?
You might embrace the discomfort.
Yeah, right. Embracing the
wore the
disease.
shirt,
Yeah,
right?
well,
I think that's
exactly.
keeping in-
All right, bro.
Yeah.
Then where's your discomfort sitting now?
I'll do it. I don't care.
Come on.
There we go.
Come on, let's
Should we,
go.
should we let Heather go first?
No, she's terrified, but I'm gonna make her.
Your courage will
She's
inspire.
terrified, but it's time. She's been here for fucking over a year.
You gotta show her what's what.
Yeah, well, she's done it in a circle, so when it like everybody's doing it, she'll do it. She just doesn't want to come up and be the center.
Some people are camera shy.
Yeah.
I am camera shy. That's why I'm putting the blindfold on.
Well, and exactly, that's one of the many things that it provides. All right, welcome. Thank you so much for playing along. Tell us your name and anything that feels important to share about belief from your childhood.
All right, my name is Miles, and from my childhood. So this is what I was struggling with, is what direction do I take this conversation?
We can help with
Does
that.
it have to be childhood? Or
It doesn't
no.
have to be. You know,
Well,
you
what's
can
the
talk
first
about
thing
any-
that comes to your mind about a belief?
I'm recently a big believer in manifestation, and that's new for me.
Expand.
I've really just. Has anyone read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yes, numerous times.
Say it again.
Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Oh,
the
yeah,
book.
that one.
I did the
Yeah.
audiobook. But...
Fritz Berkman's.
Yeah, so growing up, my dad was the poor dad. His brother, my uncle, was the rich dad. And I always looked up to my dad and him. I looked up to both of them, but in very different ways. You know, my uncle was really successful in business and just carried himself in this powerful way. And he owns the baseball stadium in our hometown. He's like this super successful man. My dad was a musician, broke, you know, and such a good soul though. My dad had so many amazing qualities. Both my parents had passed, by the way, so I'm speaking about my dad in the past tense. And so seeing the polar opposites as alike as they were, seeing the differences, really, I looked at my uncle and I always said, you know, I want to be more like him, you know, like he's my role model. My dad was my role model in many ways too, but my uncle was who I really wanted to kind of shape myself around. And so I feel like over the years I've kind of manifested that version for myself, and it's weird because recently I've started to kind of take a step back and assess my life, and I've been waking up every day just like on cloud nine. Like life is so good right now, and I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful for so many things, and I've literally manifested this life for myself. And you know, in business, I've been really successful. I've worked my way up. I was a mechanical engineer, and now I'm the COO for my company. Something I'm really proud of. In relationships, you know, I was married for 13 years. We're separated as of a year ago. But I know for a fact that was the right decision for me, and I'm on the path to a really just higher version of myself. I put myself in this box for a long time, and I've really branched out of that box, which is why I'm sitting here right now.
Yeah. Bravo.
Can you tell us what the beliefs of that box were?
The beliefs of the box were just the American family, you know, get married, have kids, get a job, work towards retirement, focus on retirement, put away all your money. And I've recently just started to live my life with so much intention. I don't give a shit about retirement. I do, but I'm living my life now.
Present moment, baby.
Yes. Yeah. And so I'm really just starting to travel more, do more things, just really put myself out there as much as I can.
Back row yoga.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a blast at One Fest. Yeah, just trying new things, you know. So I've really stepped out of that box, and it feels really, really good.
Love it. And is there a belief that you were supposed to accept growing up that you didn't and caused like friction for you?
A belief that I was supposed to accept growing up.
From parents, church, school, government?
You know, I grew up in a really small
Friends
town.
group.
I grew up in Clemens, North Carolina, which was a small town, and my family all grew up there. They never left that town, and they didn't want me to leave. They wanted me to stay in that town and have this small lifestyle, this country lifestyle with them, and I just wanted to see the world. I wanted to explore more, and you know, I went to college at UNC Charlotte, and I liked Charlotte, so I stayed here. But it's the small-minded mentality that my family believed that I didn't believe. So I was kind of, when I left Clemens, North Carolina, my grandparents were upset about it. The fact that I told them I was going to stay in Charlotte, they were actually upset, and they really wanted me to move back.
What'd they say to you? What kind of expressions did they give to you?
I remember going back to visit my family, and they took me to a house, and at the time I was not married yet, but
How old were you?
I was probably 22, maybe, at the end of college, close to the end. And they took me to a house, and they said, my grandparents had a bunch of rental properties. They took me to this house, walked me through the house, and I was kind of like, well, why am I here? And they wanted me to buy that house from them. They wanted me to move back, and they thought that if they showed me a house, I'd fall in love with it and want to move back, raise my family there, and be close to home. And it was kind of weird to me, to be honest. I don't know.
Doing business with family, trying to.
Is it a
Make a
little
buck.
bit? Is it a little bit cultish?
No, I wouldn't say cultish. No, it's just all they know. You know, my family's just that's they grew up in a small town, and that's all they know, and they have their strong beliefs in certain things, and I've branched away from that, and so.
Most people would try and buy you, and they tried to sell you. They tried to sell you to stay.
Yeah, I mean, they went to a small Southern Baptist church, and I married a Jewish girl. So that was different. You know?
Heresy.
Yeah. I could tell my grandparents were uncomfortable about that.
Was she religiously Jewish or just ethnically?
Ethnically.
Okay.
Yeah, her family was religious, very, but not her. And I didn't grow up with religion. You know, they took me to church a little bit, but it wasn't a strong part of my upbringing, so I didn't care that she was Jewish. You know, I saw her soul, you know, the person that she was. I didn't care about anything else.
Amen.
That's interesting to me relative to everything else that you've mentioned. I would think that would be quite a bedrock of your family, but... You
would think. So my dad was very spiritual. He was a musician. He was very free-spirited, and that's the path that I've gone down. My mom, her side of the family was the ones that were, you know, Southern Baptist. And they took me to church when I was really young, but I think my dad is the one who really just kind of like pushed away from it.
Miles, you mentioned recently that, or you've mentioned that you have recently been awakened to manifestation. What was the particular incident or the buildup to that?
Yeah, so talking about my uncle earlier, I kind of manifested that life for myself, and lately I've just looked in the mirror and realized, wow, I've made a lot happen for myself. Just, you know, I launched a nonprofit a few years ago that's been super successful, and you know, even relationships, like, so just a few weeks ago, right, I've decided that I'm going to start dating again, and the last year I've been separated from my wife, and I just decided I was going to just find the girl of my dreams and go for it. And I kind of manifested this idea of the person that I wanted to have a partnership with. And I randomly saw on social media maybe a month ago, a friend of mine posted a picture of this girl, and I saw her, and I messaged my friend, and I was like, who the fuck is that? And is she single? And turns out she was. So she said, message her. You know, women like to be pursued. So, so I did. She said, actually, I am single. So we had a date. It went well. And we've been talking ever since. We had our second date last night. We hiked Crowder's Mountain. I cooked her dinner last night. She came over and we had the most amazing night. And we played this game. It was like a relationship game where you draw cards and just discuss, like, get into deep discussions. And we have such a connection that I'm really excited to get to know her more. So I feel like I kind of manifested this person that has recently just come into my life.
How did you do that exactly?
I mean, I just knew what I want and kind of worked backwards, you know. It was like baby steps, you know. There's no timeline on it. It's just I know what I want in my partner and the qualities, and I know what I need to do to get that type of person into my life. And the steps to get there, I'm slowly working on.
Would you say that you're resonating the frequency of the person that you want to receive?
Yeah, so that's another thing. I've been super focused on really just elevating myself and becoming the best version of myself that I can be in all areas of life. And so I think bringing myself to that frequency and doing my best to stay on that vibration and just living a life of gratitude has really helped bring that person into my life, because she's on the same frequency. She's very successful. She's, not that it matters, she has a huge following on social media. She's very successful in business. She's very classy. She's everything that I want in a partner. She's very spiritual. We have a very deep connection. So it's the type of person that I want to be with.
What did y'all learn about each other from the game?
What did I learn? There's so much that we talked about. And I had some drinks. So I'm struggling to remember.
First thing that comes to your mind.
Yeah, just like, like I'm sure it had to be some interesting questions out of nowhere.
I mean, I would say I just learned that she is very much on the same page as I am in a lot of areas. Just with life, she's been on a healing journey herself. I have too. I lost my dad a couple years ago. And I learned about her that she just gets me and I get her. And we just have that really deep connection. So
awesome. I feel the rom-com energy from here.
yeah.
So from this point, where do you believe yourself to go from this point? What's your relatively near future look like?
That's a great question. Well, I don't know. Honestly, my relatively near future, I'm just in flow with life right now.
Nice.
And I love to live that way, When you sent me this podcast, I was just like, that feels like a good idea. Why not? Go with the flow, just show up, do my thing, and experience something new. So I'm loving new experiences right now. So I don't have like an end goal per se, life's about the journey, not the destination.
He's too busy being present. I love it. And and are you glad you got in the chair?
Sure. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Y'all got any questions?
How are you okay with where you're at now versus where you want to be? Like, how do you, how are you okay with where you're at now?
I'm okay with it because I don't know where I want to be. And I don't know that I have to care where I want to be. I just feel a strong sense of freedom right now that I'm really leaning into. and that feels good. And wherever it takes me, it takes me. I've joined a community in Charlotte, a spiritual community. I've got a mentor, and I've got some guidance on, just steering me in the right directions of where I know I want to go, but I don't really know where I want to go. So it's hard to put into words.
You're feeling your way towards it though.
Yeah.
And you're doing it really well. I feel it in your energy.
Yeah, and I've really just tried to, just have a good energy about me everywhere I go. It's the law of attraction, if you project that out to people, it comes back to you, and it's you surround yourself with that, and it's a beautiful thing,
What's the next thing you want to build or engineer?
I've been thinking about that a lot. I've thought about starting my own business. I don't own the business I work for now. So I'm making someone else very rich. But I'm in a great position, and I love my team. I love my career. It's been a blessing. So I have a lot of gratitude for that. I've thought about building out some sort of a social media, something that I could do on the side, maybe that I could turn into a business later. I love creating things, so I guess a passion of mine is creativity and just building in general, whether that's with my hands or something intangible like a social media presence or something like that. I like that. I like to live in that space of not really knowing what's gonna happen, but like, and it goes back to manifestation. Like, if I can come up with the idea and manifest it and then work my way backwards, that just sounds fun to me. So,
and so name as many things as you can that you've done that with.
I did that with our charity. So my wife lost her leg to cancer about 8 years ago. She's an amputee. And through that process, we learned that active wear prosthetics are out of pocket for people. They're really expensive. Insurance does not pay for them. So if you want to run or swim or cycle or hike, you need a different prosthetic for each activity. And so we came up with the idea to bridge that gap for people, because there were so many people that have gone through what she went through but can't afford to be active. And so we kind of manifested this idea of starting this charity to help cancer survivors get active again. And we came up with a plan for a 5K, 10K race to raise money. We do a golf tournament, and we raise about $350,000 a year now, and that goes back to help cancer amputees and cancer research.
Bravo, dude.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Thoughts, questions? Thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bravo. Once again.
Guys, I do need
Come
to
on.
bounce.
Come on. You've
Josh,
done it when
thank
we
you
were
so
in-
much,
you-
brother.
Oh,
Josh has to roll, he says.
come on. You've done it in a circle. There's no difference.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
Tell us your name and tell us anything you can about belief in your youth, especially knowing what your religion was.
My name is Heather, and I was raised Mormon from like 0 to 4, and then 9 to, well, about 7 to 13 actually. Yeah, so I was raised Mormon. I didn't believe it. Well, I guess around 13, I started having questions. I moved in with my aunt at 13, and she was very, like, she used to teach the missionaries in the missionary training center. So she was very informed with the Mormon religion. So I guess she made me start questioning it more, just because she talked about it so much.
So she was deep into it,
Yeah.
and because of her like over exuberance of it, you were sort of questioning that part.
That's probably because like I lived with my aunt and uncle before then, and they were Mormon, but I mean I went to church, but it wasn't really. But I think because she was so, like, we read, she actually had us read scriptures every night and pray every night, and actually do it a lot more. So I was like, oh, do I really even believe this? And so I started questioning it. I mean, really, I started questioning, I think, God at first. I became agnostic probably 13, 14. I started questioning, why do people even believe in a religion? I thought maybe it was just people have belief just for comfort, have answers about what happens when they die, and have comfort, to see their loved ones again. And then I started questioning about like what is truth, and like all the Mormons started thinking, they always said like, oh, I know this. Every first Sunday of the month they would have to bear their testimony and say, I know this and I know that, and I'm like, really, how do you know? And I just kind of started questioning, what is the evidence of truth? And I started thinking of like objective reality versus subjective, and I just kind of chose to be, and I realized that was a choice to become agnostic. And since I believed you couldn't really prove anything, at least I believed that at the time, then it's really just a choice of what you believe. So I don't know, I just kind of, I'm like, well, I used to think about philosophy and religion, like I used to just think about it all the time as a teenager, and then I just realized it was kind of exhausting me. So I just stopped and like, all right, I'm just going to settle with agnosticism for a while. And I didn't want to believe all the Mormon stuff, the whole, having, I don't know, just the stay-at-home mom, not always stay-at-home mom, but all the kids and getting married, and I'm just like, that's not for me.
Heather, why was all of the philosophy and whatever that topic you said exhausting you?
Just because I couldn't decide, I couldn't get anywhere. I just go in circles a lot, and
you were in such deep contemplation of what you were reading, it just kept cycling over in your mind constantly.
Because I couldn't find answers, like if I it just kept going back to like, well, how do you prove anything? And
you were a physicist trying to address metaphysics.
Yeah, and I was stuck, kind of like Dane was talking about, kind of in the objective, rational, kind of stuck thinking that was the way to know truth. And
when you had a much greater ask than I did, because Mormonism is hugely about, I believe this to be true because I feel the Spirit, and if any of you should doubt, go to the Lord and He will guide you, that whole thing.
True. I think Mormons did say that you could have like a personal relationship with Him, which that was another thing, as I never really had any personal direct experience with anything spiritual, metaphysical, or anything like that. So I'm like, I don't understand what everybody's talking about.
It's all a hullabaloo.
I was very skeptic for a while.
So can you tell us, what did your belief on life, what did your worldview evolve into?
Well, I mean, I guess it was just to kind of, take care of yourself and kind of, I think it's kind of what it is, just do your best as you can in life, kind of try to control life, which I know you didn't really have any control over life anyway, but I kind of wanted to try to control life, and I did everything I was supposed to do, and got college degrees and got a government job, and I did everything I was supposed to do. I said life was just be as comfortable as possible, maybe, and try not to let bad things happen. I don't know what my life review was. I don't know.
But fulfilling all of those things, did it make you feel how you thought it would?
No, I got to the point where it was just meaningless, and life is out of your control anyway. Sometimes, I get there's some. I was able to. The growth mindset, when I started reading those books a few years back. I did realize how much power you do have, and like in some beliefs, you can kind of. But at the same time, there's a lot that's out of your control too. So.
That's the eternal challenge, isn't it?
Mhm.
What you can control versus what you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Having to come to terms with both of those things.
Hmm.
What's the most current belief that you're letting go of, or maybe you've just recently let go of and replaced with something of a higher vibration?
Belief I'm letting go of. Well, I mean, I think I've letting go of, because agnosticism is a belief that you think that nothing can be known.
Mhm.
Right.
So I think I'm recognizing, well, maybe you can know things.
Nice.
Okay.
Love it.
Just a different way of knowing, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful. And are there any beliefs that you learned growing up in childhood from your parents or from society that you know were detrimental to you, that you know did not help you?
I mean, the first one that came to mind was, growing up was, you can't be an artist, you'd be a starving artist.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think learning to be very independent, like you had to take care of yourself and can't rely on anybody else.
When did those beliefs come in?
Well, young childhood, I think, was learning to be very independent. And then I think when I moved in with my aunt and uncle, like at 9, I think that's when I kind of, I was very poor before, when very young. And then when I moved with my aunt and uncle, they were kind of middle class. And I think they just kind of taught me the normal social, how to live in society, middle class ways, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have a job that you don't like just to survive.
It's just the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you look at middle class as being mundane, or at least what you saw of your uncle and aunt?
I mean, it was better than being poor, but
right.
yeah. I mean, it definitely. I mean, eventually, the last few years, I've realized how meaningless it felt just to be. But I don't know if middle class is that's the root. I mean, you could find meaning if you were poor.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was just equating it to that social economic sort of standard that you mentioned. But yeah, it could be anyway. I'd like to know what your current belief is on creating art right now. And what does that mean to you?
I'm still figuring that out. I don't know. I would like to create art that has meaning, but I would like to create art that I enjoy creating it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know yet about art. I'm still developing my relationship with it, I guess.
Can you merge the ideas that the art that you enjoy creating is worthwhile?
Just the mere fact of it being enjoyable makes it worthwhile.
Exactly.
It's the idea that someone's willing to pay for your joy.
Or even not. It doesn't even have to be bought. It can be a gift. It can hang on a wall. It can sit in a closet. It's for you to have created. Do you find value in that by itself?
What he's saying is that it's not necessarily about the economics of it or if you can do it professionally. He's asking just about the creative desire in and of itself.
That makes it valuable, the creative desire?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I might throw something in the ring here, which is that in all religious traditions, they don't really exist without there having been creation of some kind. And that's kind of at the bedrock of every faith of every sort. So you could say that the act of creating art or mechanical engineering or whatever it is, the act of creation is an echo of what God does, or what the universe does. And so in that respect, you are an echo of, something greater than yourself. And so by bringing something into being, you're fulfilling a deeper sense of purpose just in the mere act of creating. And if you do that with all the passion that you have in whatever area you have, then you're a reflection of something much greater than you.
That's a very metaphysical idea from a science mind.
Exactly. Yeah. The pure pleasure that you create yourself by the simple generation of it is pumping positive energy into the collective consciousness.
Yeah. But you notice, Tech, I got there kind of through a platonic
Of course.
the platonic
Of
route.
course. Of course.
So even if nobody else sees your artwork or has any regard of it, the simple act of you pleasurably creating it is exactly what the
Value.
universe is looking for.
Value enough.
And what the universe is at its core, because it creates. Mhm.
Could I?
Yes, sir.
And Heather, if I need some art in my house, so
Maybe there's a collaboration here.
so I'd be happily, I can happily buy it.
Love that. She's got some cool stuff, dude. She'll send you a link.
Well, yeah,
Who
that's
else
worth-
has any?
It's worth pondering. You know, that's just that idea that creation is in and of itself you could even say it's a spiritual act, you know, in its own right. That's something that isn't expounded upon as much as it should be, but it is, I think, pretty intrinsic to all faiths of every sort.
Thank you for. I mean, I have been thinking a little bit about what's beyond, higher than yourself.
Certainly.
So thank you. That's an interesting thing to think about. Creation being that.
I believe that art's, you know, just the act of creating it and expressing yourself and allowing yourself to, I mean, you can even move energy through art. You can take a negative energy that you're holding on to and release it in the form of creativity through art.
Yeah.
And it's very healing, I think.
Absolutely.
Art therapy.
Totally. Yeah, that energy goes into the physical work that you have created, and it has resonance for you and other people and just and the universe itself.
That's something I've been wanting to get back to myself, because when I felt at my most unhappy and disconnected, it's because I cannot express myself creatively or verbally or whatever. And you know, so I'm speaking from experience that, you know, I've been wanting to get back into that myself, to connect to that part of myself, because it is so intrinsic to, well, every creative person, but I think even non-creative people have some part of themselves that can be a emanation of, you know, what the universe does, which is create in some form or fashion. And it could very well be that their most creative act is like having a child or building a house or you know, putting a chair together, whatever it is. You're making something from either from nothing or from pieces that exist but they don't have any form, you know?
Totally.
Heather, if you believed you could just create whatever you wanted to, what would it be?
Well, today I went and walked and saw a bunch of public art. So I've always kind of wanted to do some public art to kind of make a lot of people, I don't know, appreciate something. I'm not sure what yet, though. I don't know. Something.
Okay.
It's also perfectly okay to be in a learning period of your life, because that's kind of what I've been in these last few years is, you know, learning more about myself, learning more about, you know, the world in general, the various belief systems of the world, and then how can I remake myself? How can I create that version of myself so that whatever else I create is coming from that place, which would surely be a better place than not knowing who that person is. So it's perfectly okay to be in a learning place right now.
Amen. I've got a question for you. Is there a specific belief that you know you're still carrying that you know is holding you back, is stopping you from doing or growing in a way you would like to?
I'm sure there are.
Of course.
Yeah. What specifically?
Just name a little one.
I'm not specific. I mean, I'm not sure what. I know there's that feeling of not enoughness, of like why I can't, not enough to speak, not enough to do art. I don't know, but why? What is the belief in saying I'm not enough? I don't know.
There's a lack of something, but you don't know what it's the belief in, though.
But I'm not capable. But I don't believe I can do this for some reason.
I don't believe.
You're not capable, you won't. That's what you'll
That's exactly what she's been demonstrating in her life.
But at the same time, that is also a perfectly good time to expand yourself in another area, or
Amen.
to just learn about the world. You know, I think there's a lot of value in that. Kind of get outside your comfort zone, because you find inspiration, you find your world open up in ways you don't expect, and then you can kind of get your sea legs back in a sense.
Is there one early incident that is the origin of this lack of belief in yourself?
I always suck at thinking of examples, but no, I don't think there's a specific example where I suddenly believed that I was not enough. I don't think so.
Gotcha.
Good question,
You were
though.
just kind of programmed with it from the beginning.
Heather,
Sharam has one.
Heather, do you feel worthy?
I know I've been working on that. I had been working on that.
I don't need an answer.
Well, what I would have said is worthy of what?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. But I'm like, well, exactly. Worthy of what?
Is she worthy of what, Sharam?
I was just leaving it open-blended. I just wanted the mind to go to where it needed to go.
Well, that was my initial thought. Worthy of what? But I didn't know what to go with.
Do you find it difficult to connect to others?
Yeah, definitely. Probably on the spectrum, and a lot of times alone or very independent.
So I struggle with that too. But there's a twofold relationship there, which is relationship to others and relationship to self. And so if you can't make up for one, at least at present, then it's okay to work on the other, you know. And ultimately it has to be self first, and, you know, then your ability to connect with others, you know.
That's exactly what she's doing. Love that.
Heather, you've been coming here for quite a while. Been a part of this spiritual group for quite a while, and as well as Big Love Yoga Barn. What is your belief that keeps you coming back here? For what reason?
Very good question.
That is good. Well, I believe that I have found a really good community of people that are that they want to continue to grow themselves and others. And I mean, it's all about love and light, right? And I'm like, you can't argue with that. That's awesome. Love and light.
Okay, join our cult.
I mean, nobody can argue against love and light. Yeah.
I disagree strongly, and this is why.
Right? Yeah. So just good people, good messages. It seems.
Everybody, let's give it up for Heather.
Awesome. I'm so proud of you, hon.
Let's give it up for all of us. Yeah, thank you, Heather. I'm so proud of you.
Did you find the little thing?
No, but I'll take care of it. Oh my God. One more time. Let's give it up for all of us for joining Spiritual Expansion today. This generally happens every other week. Sometimes schedule permits. We got to make some adjustments. So keep an eye open on the schedule. I always make the postings both on Facebook and Instagram, my story and on Big Love Yoga Barn. Also, this is an off-site Big Love Yoga Barn event, so your donations help Big Love Yoga Barn's relocation fund. We're going to be moving a whole new Big Love Yoga Barn 1.5 miles from its current location, which means that we have to start over all as a community and populate it with mind-bending, expansive art. So any suggestions and help and just participation is very well appreciated, as well as financial contributions too. I have a QR code sheet of Facebook, of PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, and I'll get that out pretty soon. But for right now, I would just ask us if we could all stand up together and make a circle right here. Well, just whatever the objects are that are around you, just kind of like avoid them and come together and hold the deltoids or hold the trapezoids of the people next to you. And then give a little squeeze of those muscles and actually even do it like a massage, like you're doing a massage to a really good friend and just somebody that you love and that loves you, and we're all creating this circle of love together. And then inhale and stand up tall and lift your chin. And just hold those traps and then lean back from the middle of the yoga circle of love. And then feel each other's kind of pressure and energy leaning back. And then feel this. And how we all move and function as one unit. And how this bunch of individuals is all one collective. Just like this collective is all one with the entire world, with the entire universe. We are all one. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you all. Proud of you. Proud of you.